Hey everyone, Kunik here, back with another RPG horror story for you today. In today's story, we have a DM that has a little bit of a meltdown at the table when all of the players revolt at how he's DMing the game. I won't say any more, so with that said, let's roll for initiative and begin the story. So I had recently gone in search of a 5e campaign to play in. I am currently a DM, and I found myself beginning to try and join the already busy part as that cool NPC that the DM plays. It's a bad habit and can take the fun away from the players. Be careful with that. Anyway, I had put up a feeler online and got a response from a DM. He was extremely official and wanted me to essentially interview for his campaign in the form of an RP test. As an RP favoring player, I was extremely excited about this. The test itself was a brief interaction with some NPCs, which went well, and I was excited for the campaign. Cue its actual beginning. On start day, we had a group of 5. One was a total newbie, 3 of us were experienced, and 1 was a longtime player. One of the 3 experienced players, the fighter, was the DM's friend, and they were in the same house when playing, sharing a single mic. The first session broke down pretty quickly after the fighter made a joke about an establishment in this high fantasy setting, being a Weenie Hut Jr., which somehow led to the DM totally derailing the session and making it a central plot point. The expert player left pretty quickly, messaging me privately to say that the campaign was a joke. I decided to give it some more time. We only had 4 sessions, but recurring themes began to appear in all of them. Almost all of the NPCs the DM generated were highly problematic in some kind of way. We met one particular NPC that had traveled to a nudist colony to harass women, and he was allegedly a high-ranking member of the faction our characters were in. As there were 3 female players in the campaign, he was met with a lot of resistance from us. His friend, the fighter, had also mentioned that he didn't like when people disliked his NPCs. He also used children possessed by dark forces as enemies, with no solution to exorcise the spirit given as to avoid the obvious. The same nudist colony mentioned earlier also turned out to be part of a suicide cult, which he made a number of uncomfortable jokes about. Every NPC, problematic or otherwise, was explicably level 20. This included the aforementioned children, even if we wanted to deal with the problematic NPC, or simply try to put them in their place. They had extremely high AC, spells, and stats that basically made them immune to our level 5 characters. The DM hated magic. For context, he allowed 2 players, including the newbie, to play casters. Partway into session 2, the druid attempted to cast Pass Without Trace, which led to the DM stopping the session and explaining that he had banned that, and a couple of other spells, as previous players had used it to circumvent combat. That was a huge red flag for me. Further to that, any attempt to use utility magic, Speak with the Dead, Disguise Self, was immediately denied, with NPCs not having to roll and immediately spotting illusions, or the dead refusing to speak to people despite careful preparation and magical disguises. In combat situations, he targeted all 3 casters with enemy attacks that incapacitated them in some way, requiring DC 18 saves at level 5 to get out, rendering them inert while I, the rogue, and his friend, the fighter, fought the bosses with 2/5 of the original party. He never included the newbie in RP. He was playing a first-time druid, and while the DM was nice enough to be patient with him, he never addressed the newbie in RP or acknowledged him. Myself and the cleric constantly asked him his opinion or got him to make decisions to try to give him some screen time, which I felt pretty bad about. By this point, myself and the other players, excluding his friend, had began talking in a side room about how useless our characters felt in this world, and that any attempt to deviate from the storyline were met with overpowered resistance. The last session we played was the final straw. Cue chaos. I arrived at the session late, and I was simply told, "You are standing outside of X City. A building is burning." with no additional context. Our cleric's friend had joined us as a third caster, and had also been given no world information or introduction to the party. She simply appeared with us. We were supposed to be doing a mission for an elusive gang against our will, who I decided we should confront instead. I attempted to use my background feature, City Watch/Investigator, in conjunction with an extremely high investigation check, 28. Credit to the Druid's guidance and Cleric's enhanced ability to discern them. The DM, who approved my character, stopped to check this feature and then told me I could not have it with no explanation. He then proceeded to tell me that I couldn't gain the benefit from guidance, as it allowed me to roll too high. What? This took me down to a 26, which apparently was a fail. He did, however, lead me, the cleric, and the druid to a dock where I ended up pushing a man off a boat into the river after he was extremely hostile towards me. Every NPC seemed to hate my character, and all the weird NPCs were assigned my real name by the DM. Ouch. We cut back to DM's friend, the fighter, who literally said, "I am going to walk around town and find the others," only for the DM to say, "You find an entrance to the gang's hideout," without any investigation. At which point our secret group chat exploded. After the fighter accepted another on behalf of the party, which we had made abundantly clear before the group split up we weren't interested in, the DM cut back to us. He led with, "Okay, so you've stolen the boat." I reminded him we had punched the man into the river and left, to which he affirmed that we had, in fact, stolen the boat, at which point I was done, so I told him that I was going to try to drive the boat out of the city. Suddenly, the boat became magical and required an impossibly high Arcana check to steer. We promptly crashed it into the bank a bit further down the river, and as we disembarked, we were met by the man I pushed into the river, who seemed to be an extremely fast runner, and 30, literally 30, high-level guards who had somehow decided that the ongoing gang war wasn't important enough to deal with this terrible trio. I suppose the DM thought we would surrender, but I told him that I wanted to run for it. He told me there were archers and that I wouldn't get away. I told him that I would take the dodge action and cunning action dash and move to the nearest cover to get away. Something about my plan set him off, at which point he stopped the session to shout at us, "You guys are turning into those expletive players that constantly derail sessions." I reminded him that we were only up in the boat because he forced us there, and pointed out that it was ridiculous that his fighter friend was constantly being given free leads to the plot while we were all denied the use of our character's abilities and spells. At this point, the entire Discord chat muted while he presumably ranted to the fighter, and the rest of us talked in our side chat with unbridled levels of social anxiety. We also decided that we were leaving the server without a word as soon as the session ended. The DM eventually came back and asked us if we could play the session he had planned, which further cemented to me that he should just stick to writing stories instead of dressing up his pre-written and precise plans as a D&D campaign. The session didn't go much longer, following his outburst, and we all dipped pretty much after that. Presently, we've found a pretty cool DM with an extremely immersive and open world, and I personally can't wait to put that chapter behind me. As a player/DM hybrid, I always like to make sure everyone else is enjoying the game as much as I am. I felt bad that I had chosen a non-caster class and avoided the wrath of the DM, so maybe I tended a little towards chaos to try and take the Eye of Sauron off them. But hey, I met some pretty cool players out of the experience. End post. Yet another DM that is relentless on the railroading for his players. And for me personally, the moment he started banning spells because they let you avoid combat, I probably would have been running for the hills. The fun in D&D is the open world aspect to it. If I wanted to be locked into a linear way to progress, I'd go and play a video game. D&D, however, lets you use your mind to be creative to come up with solutions to any situation you're in, and preventing the players from doing that literally takes pretty much all of the fun out of the D&D experience. So my only advice, if you're a dungeon master, try to be a little bit more open to things that you're not okay with. If you don't like the players avoiding combat, let them do it once or twice, and see where it takes the story. Anyhow, that's it for today's post. Just as a little bit of a channel update, some of you may have noticed that my videos have gone from 3 videos a week down to 2 videos a week down to 1 video a week. And I wanted to just briefly address that. For those that are not aware, I currently work in the travel industry, and with the recent CDC guidelines stating that anyone coming back into the United States has to test negative for the plague, it has literally tripled my workload at my day job. So basically, I finish working and pass out, hence why I've been doing less videos. That said, I am still shooting for 2 videos a week, and will guarantee that I'll get out at least 1 video a week. So that's my current plan. Hopefully this ends soon, so I don't have to be so stressed out at work and then passing out from exhaustion thereafter, which in turn would let me make more videos. Anyhow, just wanted to address that because I've gotten some comments on it. And that's it for this video. As always, the source of the story is in the description below, and if you like the video and you want to see more videos just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon to be notified of my future videos. And as about 80% of you watching are not subscribed, it would be doing me a huge favor for you to do so in order to help keep the channel growing. Anyhow, while you wait for my future videos, here are a few related videos that you can watch from my channel in the meantime.